Welcome to Property Avenue WA. Can you believe, certainly we can't believe it, that a little idea that we had at the beginning of the year, in fact, it's an idea that a few people, including my co-host, have been suggesting to me for quite some time, and now here we are. And now we've done nearly 12 months, 34, 35 episodes, been lots of fun. Started off as a guest, now he's taken over, he's now co-host, and he'll be running the show next. But Oscar D'Souza, he's Oscar D'Souza. I'm Tony Bonner. Welcome, mate. Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, mate. And look, I told you that I'm going to wear the Santa hat, and I probably won't wear it all show. But can I show you what I told you it does something. Can I show you what it does?
Yes, I'm interested. Please.
You must be sitting there.
As long as it's not rude.
What could this hat do? I'll show you.
Well, I suppose it could wiggle. You could play a tune.
Yeah, it does.
I'm interested. Watch. Oh.
Okay, ready? Hang on, stop moving.
Oh.
Jeez, not working.
Enough.
Here we go.
I think. Yeah, right. Okay. I'm not convinced. People have already turned off. I'm sick of you stupid boy. Okay, Property Avenue WA. Listen, it's been a big week and it's been a big year. Been loads and loads of things happening in WA, and of course, more importantly, we've had some fabulous guests. We've had lots of fun. We've covered so many topics and so many questions, and we might go back on a few of those that we've had during the year. We thought we're going to have a guest, and we thought, no, let's make this a bit light and a bit more enjoyable, since it's our last show for the year. And we're going to have a rest next week, probably recover from our little Christmas stint, and then we'll see. But listen, if you've got questions, there's a lot going on in WA with property. There's lots of people buying, there's people selling, there's people doing all sorts of things. Certainly, I've had no shortage of inquiries and people asking questions and wanting assistance, and so it goes on. What about you? How's it been going with dedicated property management?
Mate, it's off to a great start. I mean, the business itself is not quite 2 months old yet, so it feels for me like it's actually been a bit longer. I have to remember that, like anything, when you start something new, it's not just a new business, but it's also a new brand as well. So it takes a while, for people to build up that brand awareness and trust, and people understanding what it is that you do. That said, I've been there and done that before, and last time it worked pretty well, and this time I probably have learnt a lot more about it as well. So it's off to a really, really good start. A couple of major things, I guess, that I'm working on so far as my own little business is concerned, but all is very positive, and I can't wait to see where we are this time next year. I've got a bit of a plan in place, and if my plan goes to plan, I don't know, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But no, mate, it's off to a great start, and loving every minute of it.
You did say that you were a bit tired and a bit weary before we went on air, and we don't. I can relate to that. I think I talking to a client late before we came on air, in fact, and I said the same thing. I just intend to have a couple of days of R&R, I think, because it has been full on for so many reasons. Hey, listen, the other thing that's been really intriguing, there's been I thought tonight we might just, as I say, go over what we've done in the past 12 months, some of the things that we've discussed. More importantly, we'll go through the stats, just get a bit of an update of what the latest is. And then there's a couple of little things that I thought might mention, like Care for the Garden. I read a really interesting little article, which I thought was pertinent, considering it was Christmas time and people go away for school holidays and that, and then this hot weather that's coming up in the next few days. So we thought we might just touch on that. And there was a couple of other things that we would raise. It was also another interesting article or a booklet that a guy's done, Noel Whittaker, who, by the way, just for people that may be wondering, we are not associated or not connected, and this is not a money-making exercise, just something by couple of guys who enjoy things about property in Western Australia. So we've got no connection. There's no money changes hands. We don't have any sponsors. The only sponsor is Dedicated Property Management and Champion Bay Settlements, and they happen to be our respective businesses. But there was an article about Noel Whittaker making your money last in retirement, which I thought was quite pertinent, considering some of the things that are going on and the interest rates. So there's a few things that we thought we might just touch on a little bit different to what we've been doing each week. So, mate, the week that's been, what's been the observations with the stats?
Mate, look, I've done my usual stat analysis, and one thing that I mentioned last week, for anyone that was watching, but I made. By the way, I love your headgear there, mate. It's very endearing. Yeah, no,
makes a jingle.
Yeah,
classy.
But does it do this? How do I make my head do my? Hang on.
The stats. Come on, the stats.
Oh yeah, the stats. Okay, sorry, the stats. So the sales market has just continued to power ahead, and I didn't really think that there'd be a great deal of a slowdown in the sales market, and we haven't actually seen much of it yet. What I would say though is that last week I made the call, and that was, can I actually see the heat coming out of the rental market a bit? For the first time in ages, I saw that the number of properties getting leased each week through Perth was definitely slowing down, and it dropped down to just over 700 properties. And through this period, we've been used to 900 to 1,000 properties leasing every week. And the month before that, it was starting to slow, but I was attributing that to there's just simply not enough stock on the market. So that's why the transactions and the number of leased properties is actually lower. But last week we saw the number of rental properties available for rent had actually piped back up to around about 3,000 properties, and we saw the number of properties leased had pegged down to about 700 properties. So I was just wondering, irrespective of the time of the year being Christmas, and maybe things slowing down a bit, are we actually seeing the heat come out of the rental market? Well, my theory is absolutely on its head. And that's just based on the stats. We've got exactly the same market. We're obviously a week closer to Christmas. But in terms of, is the rental market slowing down? Absolutely not. Not according to the stats anyway. So in the last week, bearing in mind that last week, this time last week, we leased about 700 properties throughout Perth. And as I said, that seemed to be a little bit pegged back. But this week, in the week just gone, another 1,024 properties have been leased throughout the Perth metropolitan area. So 1,024 properties, which is as big and as busy as any other week has been in Perth over the course of the whole year. So it sprung right back up. 12 months ago, we were just over 1,000 again, 1,081. And I think it can be a bit of a busy time of the year because people are wanting to secure their houses now, be in for Christmas, be in for the school year for next year. And so, it can be busy, but on the other hand, sometimes it can be a bit patchy as well. Just because it's Christmas and offices and businesses, a lot of them actually close down. The supply side, though, as I mentioned, in terms of it's not just the number of properties leased, but we look at the supply of available rentals as well. And as I said, it edged back up last week and it basically touched 3,000 properties. And as at today, the supply side is back to 2,723 properties. So we're now heading back to a vacancy rate below 1%. And so my whole little theory of are we seeing the heat coming out of the rental market, and that was just based on 1 week's figures, but I think my theory is flawed unless next week, or rather the week after when we're back on air, the stats again suggest something different. But I was just wondering whether we might be seeing not a slow rental market, but just a bit of the heat coming out. And I dare say we had that for possibly 1 week, but it has sprung right back up to basically as busy as it's been any time this year.
Hey, do you think? I know the situation has changed with the borders being closed again, New South Wales, but would that impact on like the investors as such? Do you think that's going to change the market a little bit in 2021? I mean, obviously the borders aren't going to be closed forever. and we're always going to have that COVID issue in the back of our minds, vaccine or not. Do you think that's going to change with regard to the investors? Has that made a difference?
Yeah, well, it's probably too early to say for that, TV, but I would say that any change in people being able to migrate out of the eastern states and over to WA obviously is only going to place further pressure on our rental market locally here. And right now it's already highly pressured. Like there's a massive amount of pressure. There's low supply. There's high demand. Whether you look at the Perth metropolitan area or just about any regional area as well. We've spoken week after week about the rental crisis, not only in the Perth metropolitan area, but in regional WA and just about every single location in regional WA. Now, our mining, we're back on the cusp of what looks to be a bit of a mining boom, and unless the C word, and that being China, throws us a major curveball over next year, or maybe in the first 6 months of next year, that mining boom really is set to continue. Now, in order for people to be working in these remote locations, they obviously need housing as well. So I would think that, when the borders stay open on a more permanent basis, whether it's Victoria, whether it's Queensland, whether it's New South Wales, I can see migration increasing to WA. We've certainly got the jobs. We've got cheaper real estate in contrast to what in the eastern states. I can just see that placing further pressure on a very high pressure real estate market.
Hey, listen, and I'm madly looking for the info because with what you're saying, and you talk about jobs, and I can't put my finger on the article. I must admit this week's been a bit chaotic for both of us. And suddenly I'm running around and thinking, oh, my God, it's Tuesday and I haven't done the prep that I wanted to do for tonight. But anyway, we'll wing it. We'll get through. But what I can tell you roughly, and don't quote me with the figures, but there was something like 19 new mining projects in WA are due, right? And there's something like another 7 or 8 that are in the pipeline. Don't quote me exactly, but it's along those lines, okay?
Yeah.
Which was suggesting something in the vicinity of an extra 7, 8, 9,000 jobs, okay, in WA.
Yeah.
That's got to generate something which also then creates further pressure on our property market. Yeah. No doubt there's people migrating from interstate. And then I said to you a couple of episodes or so ago about the stat that we found where people were experiencing COVID, have experienced COVID, and went, you know what, we're going to look for some other options. And WA is one of those options. I think there's something in the vicinity of 7,000 or thereabouts that were entertaining selling on the East Coast and moving to WA. Yeah. And the figures when it came to mining, I think they were suggesting based on the price of over $100 for iron ore. And I know you talk about the big C being China, but the prediction then of this article was 2026. So this is not at this point in time. This is not a short-term wonder. This could that's not going to slow down.
No, I don't think so, mate. I think the cynical people or the pessimists would always be looking for a reason as to why things are going to slow down, why things are just not going to go ahead. Those mining project statistics that you mentioned, I heard a more optimistic one so far as projects that are actually happening and committed now, and that was in the early 40s. And so far as other projects that are likely to have the green light pushed or the button pushed over the early part of next year, I think that was another 7 or 8 projects. So no matter what, and so those projects obviously require staff. Because we're not at the point where you've got all those self-driven trucks, that's pretty awesome to see. But there's still a high degree of labour and manpower required. And not only is that it's going to be a very good thing for our economy. It's going to be a very good thing for all the businesses that are servicing where those people are living. But then the other pressure that it creates as well is pressure on the labour force for. If those people can't come from interstate, and if those people obviously can't come from overseas at the moment, then they need to come from within WA itself. Now, if they're going to come from within WA itself, they're going to have to leave other jobs in order to go to these ultimately higher priced, more attractively paid jobs.
Yep.
And then that's going to place pressure on other sectors. So, and we've seen that happen in the previous mining boom, where the construction industry really struggled when a lot of brickies, a lot of chippies, sparkies, a lot of trades left the construction industry because they were going to earn very good money within the mining sector. So, yeah, it places pressures all round, but largely it's kind of they're good problems to have, because all that means is, well, we need more people, but ultimately it's better than not having the jobs. It's better to have lots of jobs and trying to find the people than not having the jobs and having too many.
Yeah, and look, my concern, certainly in my case, in a personal situation with my staff, they're working really hard because I think everything is on, when it comes to conveyancing, everything's on a deadline, timeline. And certainly this month, everyone's wanting the settlement to have before Christmas, and that never changes, busy or not. But of course, because of the volume at the moment, there's a lot of pressure. So in my case, I'm very conscious of my staff's well-being and their health.
Yeah.
Because you've already mentioned yourself, we're tired, we're exhausted because we've had a big year for lots of other reasons, and we've got family to look after and all those sort of things on top of which, as of my staff. And I'm sure, don't forget, there was a period there, particularly those in the hospitality industry, where they couldn't get staff, can't get staff. There's the people in the farming community. I've got a couple of clients, several clients that have just worked their little butts off because they simply couldn't get people to help them with their market gardening businesses. I've got people in the hospitality industry, the same thing, so that puts pressure on everybody. It's fine to say jobs, but you can't just pluck people in left, right, and centre. And certainly in our case, it's a specialised field, and that involves training. We've got a couple of new young girls on board, but want to be a bricklayer. And I think, was it someone who do we have on board? Someone made comment, what is Casey Green? They get a bricklayer, but the price goes up. So all of a sudden it goes, oh, hang on, this company over here is going to pay more. I'll go and move over here. So suddenly I lose the bricklayer. Yeah. I was talking to a plumber today, and his comment was, the difficulty is a lot of the good blokes are out there running their own business. And then you've got people that are just trying to manipulate what they can get out of it when it comes to money. So it's a catch-22, but it is good for everybody. And let's hope that everyone's health is also very important.
Yeah, and even just, there's so many more examples. I was at a BNI, business networking meeting, not last week, but the week before, and there was one of the guys there who's got a window cleaning business, and he's had that for 15 years or something. And just with the level of work that's been coming in, and I guess that his business is winning, he's basically put the call out to anyone. He's at a business networking meeting, not looking for more business, but he's looking for, hey, does anyone know of anyone that can that we can train up to be a window cleaner? Because there's that much work for window cleaners, and they simply can't get people. So again, it's a problem that has probably got is closer to getting a solution than just not having the work. It's a better problem to have than not having the work at all. People. I think people are going to be a dominating factor through 2021, because right now you can't just get them in. You can't get them in from overseas, and the whole eastern states thing is, with COVID, obviously is causing quite a bit of grief as well. So.
Yep.
We're talking, our show is starting off, it's less about real estate, and it's a lot more of, it's almost an economic show right now, and how that impacts on property.
Yep. Hey, I'm going to change a little bit, just a little twist.
Okay.
When lots of people have been buying houses, and lots of people moved in and doing their first Chrissy, what are the sort of things, considering it's Christmas time, what are the sort of Chrissy presents you reckon you would entertain if you were in a new house, or you were going to give someone something for a Chrissy present? House related, property related, garden related.
So someone that's just moved into a new house.
Hey, you've got a family member that's just moved in a new house. Pardon?
So you're asking me,
sorry?
if I knew someone that's just moved into a new house, what's some good gifts I could get them?
Yeah, what are your thoughts? What do you reckon?
Mate, you're asking a bloke who's not like the most domesticated bloke ever, and who hasn't really started his Christmas shopping with about a day and a half available to do it, and you're
No.
asking me about what are good gifts that I should give someone?
Well, think outside the square, man. For heaven's sake, you must have some suggestions.
Tea towels.
Oh,
But we just got some ourselves, and I've got to be careful as to how much detail I get into it, because in case the person who gave them to my wife, and therefore our house, is watching, I don't want to say anything too bad about the tea towels. But tea towels, there are some good-looking tea towels out there, but far out there are some useless ones in terms of the job that they do, in terms of being a good tea towel. Is that getting a bit too specific?
oh no,
Are you
I'm
even
impressed.
listening to me?
I was thinking more like, like you must have something outside the square. Surely someone must have some thoughts about that. I mean, what about there might be a new gadget out and about. You think that might be ideal, something to get for the house, or would you get a
Honestly,
surely you must have some thoughts.
I was in JB Hi-Fi. The thing I like doing these days is going into JB Hi-Fi when the kids are there, and they're either in the toy section or the clothes section, and now the makeup section. But when I've got them away from there, and then Dad gets a bit of his time, I love going into JB Hi-Fi and checking out all the new TVs. Haven't bought one yet, but those screens get bigger and more clear, and I can't wait till I next get myself the next television. That doesn't really answer your question though, because I'm not going to go and
Yeah, it
spend
does. Yes, it does. I think that's a good question.
Well, but I'm not going to go and spend 3 or 4 grand on someone for a housewarming present with a new TV, am I?
Okay, you and your wife might decide to get a present for yourselves for your new house. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Nothing. Now we're talking. That's good, mate. That's a good
Hey,
idea.
think outside the square, man. I like the idea of some of the sound systems.
Some of the what?
Some of the sound systems that are out there. Similar to you go into some of these stores and get some of these fabulous sound systems you can use for inside, outdoors, and indoors. Yeah. Brilliant. Great sound and little tiny units.
Yeah, right. And you can't go past the plants. Plants are always a good thing, whether indoor or outdoor plants. In most cases they can change the feel, change the setting, and everything of a room, whichever room you decide to put them in. So plants are always a good one.
I like going, you know what I like doing? I like going to those kitchen places. They've got all these different gadgets, all these different pots and pans and all the little kitchen tools and whatever. You know what? I'll tell you something. Now, this is out of left field, but how many people think about it and ask and go, when we finish this show, go and check the second drawer in the kitchen and just have a look at all the utensils in the second drawer. It used to be a bit of fun that we used to do. Have a look at all the utensils in the second drawer of the kitchen cabinet and see how many of those you've used over the last 12 months, let alone you've used over the last 2 years. The second drawer is always the special drawer in people's houses. And I remember my brother below me, who now lives in Singapore, there's a group of us that caught up and have a Christmas show. In fact, we had one on Friday together. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it this year. But I remember going to one of our friends' houses, and at some ungodly hour of the morning, he decided that he'd check the second drawer of the kitchen. And it was a lot of fun going through and trying to describe what these various utensils were for and when was the last time you used it. It's a great little exercise. You should do it together one time. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know how you know, but our second drawer in the kitchen is absolutely full just of the loose utensils.
Everybody.
And I think the top layer of everything, like we use those. We definitely use those things daily, but probably 75% of the other stuff that's in there is what are you suggesting? A clean out of the drawer?
Oh no, you never. It might come useful at some time. It's a bit like my tool shed.
Mate, are we going to talk any more real estate today?
Yeah, we are. Well, it is house related. I just said it's Christmas, and we'd mixed up a little bit. Hey, listen. The other thing that I thought, now that you've done, um, uh, now that you've sort of bombarded my little outside the square suggestion, um, uh, with regard to the year, we've had some really interesting. We've had some fabulous guests.
Yeah.
Jordan. In fact, Jordan was on before you. Jordan was on before you even. You even became co-host, I think.
Jordan who?
Jordan Ralph. Jordan runs Mountway Finance in up in Karratha, and he's a mate of mine, and he helped us with regard to that. And he had some really interesting points. One of our very, very early shows when we just came up with the idea of let's do this Property Avenue WA, and he came on with some interesting stuff. As has Dean Stonehouse, has been on a couple of times, and given us some really good insights with regard to finance. And funnily enough, I spoke to talking about real estate and talking about the finance boys. We got some feedback the other day. One of the banks had over 300 files waiting to be checked off to proceed to settlement. So they're all ready to go, but they had to be checked off before they got to the settlement department. I think it might have been Westpac, but that gives you an insight of what's going on here in WA at the moment when it comes to. Hello.
Yeah, sorry, mate. You were just breaking up a bit. You froze up a little bit, but
you're freezing.
I'm freezing. You were freezing.
Oh, maybe it's 35 degrees outside. Hey, one other thing that I'll mention to you. We just got a Merry Christmas from Sandy Wormold. Merry Christmas, guys. And she has really enjoyed our All Things Property. Great job. So thanks, Sandy. We're going to get her on next year because Sandy is the state manager of Stuart Title, which is about title insurance. Yep. So
that's right. See, I knew that, but I've never actually met Sandy or spoken to her. But I knew that she was state minister. Yeah. So
lovely.
We should book her in for January or February. January or February, hopefully.
I will. Unfortunately, she's got one of those organisations that is worldwide, and they've got to get various approvals when they go onto media and all the protocols. So I know she's following that through. I know she's been chaotic. So but we'll definitely follow it up. I have sent her a little message. But she also made mention, Oscar, you're in trouble if you buy your wife a tea towel or a plant. Just saying.
Well, I haven't actually bought her anything yet, and I've got a day. I've got a client all morning tomorrow, and then I've got about a day and a half to get some shopping done. I've heard from those that I've spoken to this year more than any other year, and this last week, in terms of the roads anywhere in and around a shopping centre, the car parking, like it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's a pretty painful time. If you think you're just able to go in and out and get something quickly, it's not going to happen.
I know. I was out and about today, and it was a busy time. Hey, just the other thing, Michael Killer, we had him on a few episodes or so ago now, and from the agency, and he was discussing real estate, and as he said at the time, real estate's not for everybody, and it's not a short-term gig. But with regard to where property is at the moment, you think his thinking's probably a little bit different as far as that's concerned at the moment?
I know that his view has definitely. Well, no, I don't think that his view would change so far as whether it's a long-term or short-term, because I don't think any time has it ever been, especially for your everyday investor, it's never ever been and should never ever be a short-term gig. Real estate is always a long-term gig unless you're in the professional area of development and quick flipping of properties and value improving, but for just about most, it really should always be a long-term investment. One thing, though, that has changed, though, in his view, and I know just because I catch up with him once a week, is when he was on, he was talking about investors and whether investors really have been leaving the market. particularly over the last 6 months of the year, because the market's improved a little bit and they've started to recover some of their losses. And we all know the real estate investment market over the last 5 years, and maybe even since the GFC, has not been very favourable to the investors, and they haven't achieved what they normally would do. But his view has changed. Just in the last month or two, he's noticed that investors selling properties have certainly backed off. They're basically saying, right, that the market's really, really good. Let's just wait and see if they've got a tenant, which they probably do. Interest rates are very low, and if capital values are now starting to rise, that urgency or impatience in terms of just wanting to quit it and get it gone, that certainly has come out. So people are holding a bit longer, and he's also had an increase in inquiry from investors looking to buy these investment properties. So, and we've made mention of that a couple of times in the last few weeks, that investors are definitely back into the marketplace. And I think there's no question, just in terms of what's happening in your business, TV, and in the inquiry that I've been receiving as well, there's no doubt at all that investors are back into the marketplace. And although it's a bit of it just runs off the tongue for a real estate person to say there's never been a better time to buy, I tread very carefully with that sort of a statement. But that said, WA real estate prices are very low comparative to the eastern states. Our rental market has never, ever been stronger than what it is now. And interest rates have never been this low in living memory. So those three factors for a good investment, I don't think can get any better than what they are now. So I really do think now is a great, great time to be buying an investment property, because you can achieve everything that you need to, or rather it looks like you can achieve everything you need to out of it.
Well, and not only that, I mean, the other thing being too is, I mean, you don't put all your eggs in the one basket, but we talk about what you can do with your money when you retire, but the fact being is you're getting nothing for your money in the bank. Obviously, you've got to be careful about volatility with the share market. Not that I'm giving advice here, but the fact being is that property where the market is at, and then possible returns as an income, depending on your resources, that's got to be something that may be beneficial to you if you're looking for that little bit extra when it comes to your retirement plan or your semi-retirement plan or that little bit of income. And at the moment, other than travelling around WA and eastern states all going well, we're not spending the money to go overseas. So it was interesting. Was it Dino that made mention that the savings accounts have gone up significantly, credit card debts reduced, and I think I read that in a paper somewhere as well. So people are smart with their money at the moment, and perhaps property is another little thing that could be a smart move. But everyone's circumstance is different, as we always say.
But even coming out of COVID in WA, caravans, boats, jet skis, pools, people installing pools into their backyard. Like, there's some things where people are absolutely, like, those businesses are fully booked and have had more orders than they probably ever had, because excuse me, people are using the different stimuluses, the access to superannuation, JobKeeper, obviously, to reduce debt, reduce credit card debt. They can't spend the money on overseas holidays, so a lot of that money's been going back into our local economy, and that's a really, really good thing. So that will probably change again next year, and I think as people run out of things to buy, or they've had enough of buying the toys and they can only buy one pool, if they've still got available money, they can either just try and reduce whatever debt they've got, or you can take on what we refer to as smart debt, and that being investment debt, where you can borrow some money with the intention of investment, and that can be investing in anything. But in this case, we're obviously talking about investing in real estate, which, as I mentioned before, now it really is a very, very good market to be investing in real estate. But as you keep mentioning, TV, we're not providing advice. We're not saying run out and do that. All I am saying is give it some thought. And whilst you're giving it some thought, speak to the people that you know and trust in finance. Speak to your accountant. Speak to your trusted advisors to work out if it's right for you. But at this point in time, it really should be a consideration.
Yeah, and certainly, yeah, and certainly get the right opinions. Certainly do your homework, do your research, and I'm getting a fair bit of inquiry with regard to that, which is what I enjoy doing. And then we're giving people some direction to say, okay, well, let's go and speak to a property manager and get his perspective on that area. So it goes, So all those things are relative with regard to making good decisions and making decisions that are you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, and you've spoken to your accountant and have your structures right, and so it goes on. It's not just a case of let's go and buy real estate. As I say, buying property it's all well and good, but it's not your normal Chrissy shopping experience. It's a very different experience, and it's something that you can't just do on a whim. You've got to make sure that it's right for you and it's doing the things that you want it to do. And as I keep on saying, we're all different. We've all got different circumstances, and that's why those sort of things got to come into play when we make a decision about it's a big investment, whichever way you go.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. So, TV, what do you think? Sorry, I was just going to ask you a question on, so we're practically at the end of 2020 and rather turbulent year. But so, what's the conversation that you think that we'd be having in, June or July next year? What do you think we'll be saying in 6 months' time?
I think it'll be probably more of the same. I think it's going to be my observation, which I've been saying for a while. I think this is not going to slow down. In fact, I think it's going to be busier. I think the conversation will be, what am I going to do now? I'm at that stage of my life where retirement probably should be at the tip of my lips. Well, my doctor said to me, I'm going to be one of those people that, because of my, touch wood, my well-being, it's probably one of these people who's going to work till they're 80. Jude was with me at the time, and she said, yes, it's very likely that will happen, but he'll probably also have a divorce at the same time. No, I think that quite seriously, I think it's going to be June, July. I think we'll be talking about how busy it is. I hope to think that it's a more stable year across the board than what this year has been. When I say that, particularly March, April, where we all sort of got a scary moment, the unknown moment, the unique world, as I call it. I suppose the other thing is just being observant of what's happening with values, because it's been well documented that Perth, WA, will probably be leading the rest of the states, which gets to me to another point that I saw. Dean Stonehouse, who's a follower of ours, has been a guest of ours and a mate of ours. He sent an article to me today, which was an interesting read, and it made reference to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, and the residential market. And interestingly said, Melbourne residential price recovery in Melbourne is lagging other capitals. The return of a more normal environment generally as social and business restrictions ease, however, should support pricing into 2021 as pent-up demand is released. When it comes to Perth, after a number of false starts, it does appear that the long cycle of negative price movement in Perth's residential market is finally coming to an end. Prices dipped further over the first half of 2020, largely a result of COVID-19 border closures limiting interstate buyer demand, which is what we were talking about before. Better signs were noted in the September quarter, as the REWA data is showing, median house prices, etc. Performance in the December quarter looks to have strengthened, as is the case with Brisbane. Perth has a much lower price point in comparison with Sydney and Melbourne, with the state's positive health outcomes coming out of COVID-19 and an improving economy. The key driver of net interstate migration is close to turning positive for the first time since 2013. So that's a very positive outlook with regard to WA, which we've been saying for a while, and as has many other, broadcasters. And I think we'll be talking similar when it comes to June, July, and I think we'll probably be talking bigger numbers.
Yeah. You just mentioned false starts, and that's something that was on my mind, and I forgot about it a bit earlier. But I made a comment about the cynics out there or the pessimists so far as where the market's at, and is this really just another false start? And I can understand that line of thinking, because the other false starts that we've had, and there's been 2, probably 3 in the last 5 years, with those false starts, we didn't think they were going to be false starts at the time that they were. So if we've been burnt by that, it's easy for a conservative person to say, "Oh yeah, let's just hang back and see." And is this just another false start? That said, in review of the false starts that we have had, and we look at the broad economic indicators that we've got right now, and those 3 fundamentals that I keep referring to. One is the capital value of our real estate prices here in WA compared to the rest of the country. The second thing is our rental market. You look at our rental market and how tight that is. There's simply not enough properties, and there's very, very high demand. And that's without all the interstate migration and obviously international migration. So, and then the third thing obviously is our interest rates, that even if you thought that there's going to be interest rate rising any time in the next 5 years, the rate that you can lock in a 5-year, well, I don't even know if they're doing 5-year fixed terms at the moment, but certainly a 2 or a 3-year fixed term at the moment is so cheap that it just makes for a good investment. So I can't see any reason why our market is going to swing around and go the other way. I can see this positivity remaining through all of 2021. I think it will be interesting. I mean, there's the China factor. So we've spoken about the C word now for a couple of weeks, and there's the China factor and the impact on our WA economy. And that's just going to take some time to actually see the effect of that. But so far, the talk surrounding that is obviously not all that positive. The other thing being as well is that there will be a federal budget that's going to be due out in May next year, I think. And that's going to be a very interesting budget, because this last 12 months, there's been a massive amount of unplanned spending, and at some point in time, that money needs to be paid back. And typically, the way that gets paid back is through our taxes. So, what sort of measures are they going to put in place come budget time for next year, and how is that going to affect people's optimism, people's spending, people's negative gearing? And I have no idea what that looks like, but I would think it's more likely going to pull the reins in a little bit, as opposed to encouraging more spending. So, and also bearing in mind, at that point in time, they'll have the data of this next 6 months to look at where the economy's at, and whether, trying to take, if we've got a very, very heated real estate market that continues to do what it has done in the last 6 months, maybe they'll want to find a way to slow things down so that we're not at a unsustainable and ridiculous level of growth. We want growth, and we want it to be positive, but we don't want it to be exponential, which is what we saw for the 2 to 3 years prior to the GFC, and we don't want to go through that period again.
No, true. But with the predictions and what they're suggesting is going to happen, and particularly WA and what we've got with the employment and things, then I think we've got a positive outlook ahead of us. We all, COVID is still something in the back of our minds. You've still got the situation with China, so there are some things that could impact on this this experience that we're going through at the moment. But you would like to think there's more positives than there are negatives to address that. Hey, listen, something else, changing direction again a little bit. I've got something for you. Now, this is
you've got something.
Actually, before I do that, one little article that I saw, because people go away on holidays and all that sort of caper, and this is not just about real estate, it is about property. I just thought there was a really interesting little article I read about care for the garden before you go away. Now, I know you're a keen gardener. I love my garden. I do. I love my garden. I've got all my little herbs and I think bits and pieces happening. But, of course, it concerns me because I'm fortunate enough that I have a home in Geraldton, and I'm in Perth at the moment, hot weather coming up. And, of course, you put all your new plants in, and then you're worried about how they all survive while you're away. You want to go away and relax. So this little article made mention that over the hottest part of the year, of course, we're all away on holidays. What do? What do we got? Reticulation. first thing I reckon you should be doing, which is what I do, and I consider myself just a handyman when it comes to gardening, but make sure your retic's all happening and you've got all your plants all sort of in a little huddle. Like if you've got pot plants, put them all together so they're all getting wet together and you don't have some missing out and they go all dry and you come back and go, look at my beautiful veggie garden that's been destroyed. So if you're going away and you've got your garden, you've got your nice house, you bought yourself a new home in the last 12 months, or you might have your old home you've had for ages, and you've done a beautiful renovation, you put some new garden in. If you're worried about it when you go away, one of the first things I would recommend, as this article made mention, just check your retic and make sure, and also your weeding. Get rid of all your weeds because they sap up all that extra energy. You think I'm joking? That's serious.
No, I don't think you're joking. I'm just thinking about Don
Burke when it comes to gardens, I reckon.
I'm just thinking about Don Burke, mate. And when I'm looking at you out of the corner of my eye, I'm thinking about Don Burke, and I'm sitting there going, mate, you kind of look a little bit like the guy. And now you're starting to sing from your same book. So is security another thing in your article in terms of what to do when leaving the house? Does it talk about security?
Security is very important, and one of those first things you should be doing is tic-tacking with your neighbours and letting them know that you're going away, how long you're going to be away for, so they know what's going on. Don't just slip away and don't leave your bin. Make an arrangement with your neighbours to put your bin out when your bin's due. Otherwise, your bin's out all for a week. Sadly, there's people in this world that look for those sort of things and go, right, that bin's been there for a long time. And the other thing being is junk mail, right? Don't leave your mail. Again, speak to one of your nice neighbours, give them a six-pack or a nice bottle of wine. Say, look, going away for a few days, going to be away for a couple of weeks, would you care to just make sure my mailbox is emptied out for me and there's nothing lying about? If you don't mind, that'd be fabulous. And thank them, of course, in return.
I think there's so much that can be, mate, I totally agree. I think there's so much that can be done so far as security is concerned. And yeah, it's not a very pleasant topic, but far out, if you look at any of the community social pages, every other day, there's someone from every single suburb, by the way, there's someone piping up saying, hey, be careful, I saw someone, I've woken up to a smashed window, the car out the front of my house, or a couple of suspicious guys doing this and that. So I really think that the best security that measures that you can have, not that security cameras and all that are a bad thing, because they've got a purpose and they're really good, but having your network of neighbours, your community of neighbours, and everyone looking out for each other, and all these things don't cost any money. So bins, you mentioned, junk mail's another one, reticulation, and just checking on the garden. If you're close with your neighbours or whatever, for one day, half a day or whatever it is, they can just park their car on your driveway, or just make it look like there's activity around your house, so that people don't, and the wrong people don't get suspicious that there's no one there, and therefore that would be a pretty good target. So, because the other thing being as well, like whenever you hear a car alarm or you hear a house alarm or whatever, that obviously will be an issue at some point in time for the person doing the wrong thing. But by and large, I know myself, when I hear a car alarm or when I hear a house alarm, I don't immediately go into, oh my God, I better go and see who that is and make sure, like you sit there and go, turn that off, or yeah, there's an alarm going. But it doesn't raise the alarm amongst the people that are hearing it, from my experience anyway. So I think the community security is the best and most effective.
Our good friend Dean Stonehouse has just said his neighbour doesn't have a letterbox, so they don't get junk mail. I mean, okay. Hey, listen, I've got something special for you. I've been dying for you to show this. Now, I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this to everybody. I've got something special for you. I'm about to play it. I love it. This is just a little gift from my princess and I to you. I thought you'd enjoy it. So just watch and enjoy.
What?
What did you think?
I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. And you know what? I'd have to say that even though that's just a little bit of an animated cartoon thing and it's got our faces on there, if ever there was a time that you and me went on a holiday together or we went skiing or something like that, the look on our faces that I saw on that particular video, that's exactly, you know, the reason why it made me smile so much, I think, is I'm just sitting there imagining me being on a holiday with you and you and me getting up to no good, basically. And that's exactly what our little holiday would look like. I reckon that's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Hey, listen, I'll send it through to you so the kids can have a look. They'll
Yeah,
love
please
it.
do, please
They'll love
do.
it. They'll love it. And we'll put it on our. We'll be on our Facebook page, so we'll make sure on our Property Avenue W. Hey, listen, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't believe that we've done this over the 12 months. And admittedly, you started off as a guest. You've now become a co-host. And admittedly, we're great mates, but it's also nice to have you on board. To all our guests, we've had Jordan Ralph, we've had Dean Stonehouse, we've had Casey Green, we've had Henry Van Tier, we've had Carly Brown, we've had Dion from AICWA, we've had Dean Stonehouse. Have I mentioned Dino? We've had Justin
You
Collins
have.
discussing insurance at Aviso. I've missed someone. I know I've missed someone. I'm trying to think. Michael Keel from the
Yeah, killer.
agency. We
Yeah.
had Oscar D'Souza from Dedicated Property Management. I got to thank my little princess for supporting us, and also to yours for supporting us and allowing us to do what we do, be it that hour or so that we avoid, mate. It's been lots of fun, and I can tell you. So we went out for lunch. Unfortunately, you couldn't make it on Friday, but I caught up with a friend of mine. Oh, and Khan and Leah, first home buyers from Maratha.
Yeah.
They had them. That was fabulous. Lovely young
Yeah.
couple. But to those that I missed out on, please, I'm just going off memory and I'm not very good at that. So but just thank all those people. Thank you to all the followers that came on board and asked questions and played a part throughout the year. It's been loads and loads of fun. But we did catch up and have lunch on last Friday, and unfortunately you had a last minute appointment, so couldn't make it. But we are just about ready to go, and we will be doing a podcast next year. So you'll be able to you won't have to worry about seeing our faces, but you'll be able to pick us up through Spotify or Apple, all going well. So that's the game plan. And there may be another avenue. It's not something that we've been pushing, but it has been. It's early days. There's a chat going on, and we'll just see. But certainly, what we've done, I really appreciate, mate, for what you have done, and I hope we have as much fun in 2021.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure of mine, and honestly, it's all my pleasure, really, in terms of being able to jump on board. It's a lot of fun for me. I have a lot of fun. Obviously, we hang out and catch up when we're not on the show, but yeah, it's a really lot of fun, and I can't wait for next year. And it's only days away now, and whatever it brings, if I'm alongside you and we're doing a bit more of this, yeah, it'll be well worth my time, mate. So, and for our guests and our regulars and everything, thanks so much for tuning in. It's really cool. Next year we want more questions, and maybe we're not getting as many questions because we do too much, but we definitely want more questions. But other than that, we love, you just being part of the journey. And if there's any particular, apart from questions, if there's any topics that you're sitting there going, can you guys do a segment on renovations, or can you guys do a segment on other home helpful hits, or what creates value in a house? What should we be spending our time and money on in order that we can achieve another 50 grand when we sell it in 6 months time? Or how do we prepare the house for sale or for rent? So please send us some suggestions.
Home security.
Sorry.
Home security.
Yeah, home security, anything at all. Like it's just stuff that we do day to day, and we probably take it a bit for granted. But we're on here to not sell you anything. We're here to just share the knowledge, and hopefully that'll improve your real estate journey, whatever that looks like.
And I cannot believe this. Here I am going on memory. I just thought, and I've just been reminded, Gabriel Wong from Tang Law. Gabriel, how could I? He gave me a magnificent bottle of wine as a Christmas present today, and we went and had a lovely sandwich over the road at. Have you been? There's a little place there where the Pan Pacific, I think it's called, over the road from the Novotel. Mate, do yourself a favour. That was a nice little spot for lunch. Went there today.
Right.
So Gabriel, he discussed wills, and we're going to get Gabriel on again next year, as we will with a few other guests. So. Mate, fabulous to all those out there. Have a very, very Merry Christmas. Have a lovely time. Stay safe, and we look forward to playing a part in 2021. And good luck and have fun. Take care.